Mars, the next frontier for humanity, and your new home. Surviving here won't be easy, many have tried before and failed, but with a little guidance and perseverance, you'll be well on your way to transforming the barren red planet into the new jewel of the solar system. And who am I? My name is Promise. You might know me as the genius who consistently founds Martian colonies under the most dire circumstances imaginable. Well, alright, perhaps genius is a stretch, but I am a seasoned veteran of surviving Mars. And with a little help from my friends over at Hamamont and Paradox Interactive, I'm here to teach you everything you'll need to know to become a successful governor in Surviving Mars Relaunched. It all begins with a mission. When you start a new game, you'll need to select a few important settings. These range from your mission sponsor, your professional background, and more, which will grant a number of benefits to your colony. I'm not going to dwell on each of these, but for new players, I recommend playing with the International Mars Mission as your sponsor, and the City Mayor as your commander profile. These will give you the easiest starts with plenty of funding and other bonuses. For mystery settings, don't worry about this too much. If you'd like to select one, go for the Beyond Earth or other easy mysteries, or just disable this entirely. The Founding Faction setting is a brand new option in Surviving Mars Relaunched, which sets the stage for the new political system once your colonists arrive. Just read through the descriptions, find a party that appeals to you, and go with it. There's no wrong choices here. And then as for rival colonies and game rules, we're going to leave these on their default settings, as I would consider these to be for more experienced players. Now, let's take a look at our starting rocket payload. Your mission sponsor has been kind enough to provide you with a rocket and some starting funds, and you'll need to bring along a host of tools and materials to set yourself up for success. Some of these resources you'll be able to scavenge on the surface of Mars, others will have to wait until your colonists arrive. For simplicity, I recommend you follow what I have shown here. No metals or concrete, a decent number of polymers, machine parts, and electronics, and then 6 drones, an RC Explorer, an RC Transport, and a drone hub to make sure you have enough robot workers to set up the colony. Then everything else really is optional, but if you have the space and funding, I think it's worth bringing 3 or 4 orbital probes and at least 1 moisture vaporator to reduce your need for a water source on Mars, plus a fuel refinery to save you time. You'll understand why in just a bit. An RC commander can be helpful too for a more mobile workforce, or if you have even more room, just grab some more drones or probes. Finally, we turn our gaze to Mars itself. You'll need to select a site to establish your new colony. Surviving Mars does offer a few preset sites that you can choose from, or you can find your own by clicking random spots on the planet. For newer players, you'll be looking for a zone that is relatively flat and has low threat ratings, especially for dust storms and cold waves, and lots of resources. Elysium Beta is a good example of an easy starting zone, and that's what I'm going to pick for this run. And that's it! Your mission parameters are set, and you're ready to launch your first rocket to Mars. The first of many, I'm sure. Now that you've reached the planet's surface, you'll need to pick a location to set down your rocket. As you can see, the map is divided up into a grid, and one of these cells will always be revealed. You could settle down in that spot, or this is a good opportunity to use your probes to reveal a few extra cells and maybe find something better. You never know for sure what you're going to find, but early surveys will tell you if you have a high likelihood to find resources. The most important resources you are looking for are concrete, metals, and water. Everything else is optional. In this case, I see that we have a concrete deposit already revealed. I'm going to scout the immediate areas around that spot to see if I can find a metal or water deposit. If you brought the moisture vaporators with you, the water deposit isn't critical, but it certainly helps. I'm going to select this spot right here. We'll just click on our rocket and tell it to come in for a landing. As our rocket touches down, we can set up some unloading points for our drones. Navigating through the build menu, I'm going to place down a universal storage close to the rocket, just to make things easy. One tip, though, whenever you place down a storage spot, always turn off fuel storage. It's not likely, but fuel can explode and destroy all of your resources, so I like to keep those separate. Anyway, the next thing we're going to do is set up our concrete production. Again, using the build menu, I'm going to make an extractor on this deposit here, and then place a storage spot nearby. Now you might be wondering what the hex radius around the building represents. Well, it turns out the ferritic dust on Mars is incredibly corrosive. The radius shows an area where the extractor will be kicking up a lot of dust while it mines. So as a pro tip, don't place any other buildings in that radius so you can minimize your maintenance. I'll explain more on that later, don't worry. Now, while we build that extractor, we can also send our drones and our RC transport to go hunting for any surface deposits of metal. Look for these little black rocks like these and gather them up. We're going to need that to set up some early power. Speaking of power, our concrete extractor isn't working right now. We can fix that by setting up some solar arrays and connecting everything by a power cable. Solar panels are cheap, but of course they only work during the day, so this is only a partial solution. We'll need to build batteries as well, which will use some of our precious polymers. Build 2 panels to power an extractor during the day, and a 3rd panel to charge the battery. That should be enough to keep everything operating day in and day out. So now we have power, metals, and concrete. There's one more resource that we will need to produce, and that's fuel. This will allow us to refuel our rocket and launch it back to Earth to either pick up more resources or transport our colonists. Fortunately, fuel is easy to make. We just need to find a source of water, power, and then a fuel refinery. The fuel refinery itself is easy to build, but it will use up some of those machine parts. And for water, we have a couple of options. If you have a water deposit, go ahead and place down a water well, just like the concrete extractor, and of course supply the well with power. Or if you don't have one, then instead place your moisture evaporator right next to the refinery. In both cases, you're going to need to hook up your buildings using pipes, which we can do just like this. If everything is connected and you have enough power to go around, then congratulations, you have a source of fuel and you've already set up the bare minimum for a functional colony. It's going to take a while to refuel your rocket, so let's take a step back and plan for the future. All of the resources we've discovered up until this point are finite. They will not last forever. So we're going to need to expand just to keep the base operating, let alone making it habitable for humans. Let me give you a quick rundown of our resources. As you already know, metals, concrete, power, and water can all be extracted easily here on Mars, and fuel is then refined from water. Your humans will also need oxygen to breathe as part of their life support system, but fortunately that can also be extracted from the thin Martian atmosphere using this Moxie building. We don't need this right now, but we will before the humans arrive. The other resources you can see, rare metals, polymers, machine parts, electronics, and food, are all advanced resources, and unfortunately, our drones can't produce them. These require a more delicate human touch, so we need to bring colonists to Mars. Therefore, our early game goal will be to set up the resource production, life support systems, and housing necessary to recruit our brave pioneers. Now you might ask, what's the urgency? Why do we need these advanced resources? Well, let me introduce you to a really important aspect to surviving Mars. Remember how I said the Martian dust is corrosive? That means every single building in this game, from solar panels to housing to factories, has some sort of upkeep cost. Sometimes that's metals or concrete, sometimes it's polymers or electronics. If you ever run out of those resources, you will need to import more from Earth. But if you're out of money and upkeep resources, well, you're dead in the water. This tells us 2 things. First, getting colonists to Mars is a high priority if we want to become self-sufficient. Without them, it's only a matter of time before the colony falls. Second, we want to be very intentional about our building projects. It might be tempting to build loads of power plants and batteries if we have the extra materials sitting around, but if we don't benefit from that surplus power, then all we did was increase our upkeep costs. Surviving Mars requires planning and careful execution. Nothing can be wasted. Keep that in mind if you are ever struggling. The good news is the planet is huge and we're not restricted to our landing zone. We can explore and find more metals and deposits to bring back home. To do this, we need to start scanning nearby regions in the grid by constructing some sensor towers and then simply selecting which zones we want to scan. The more of these towers we build, the faster we can scan, but the more electronics upkeep we'll have to endure. I find building 3 towers is usually manageable. Once a zone is revealed, we need to go get those metals and expand to the deposits. There's only one problem. Your drones have limited range. For now, our rocket has been functioning as a drone control tower, but once that leaves, we'll have no way to send commands. We can place down a drone hub to fix that problem, but as you can see, it has a limited range as well. This is where the RC transport comes in handy. It's not limited by drone hubs and can travel anywhere. So in the early game, as you explore zones, it's worth directing your transport to pick up resources and bring them back to sustain your early economy. Every once in a while as you explore, you may also discover an anomaly on the planet's surface, something that our scientists are struggling to explain without a closer look. This is why we brought an RC Explorer. Like the transport, it's not limited by the range of the drone hub, so whenever we find an anomaly, we need to explore it. This can give you extra science, breakthrough technologies, resources, and more. It's always worth doing if you can. Science, you ask? What science? Well, allow me to direct you to our next section. As you've already surmised, life on Mars is hard. And quite frankly, the technology we've developed on Earth simply isn't going to be enough to sustain us for the long term. We need to adapt and develop new technologies that will ensure our survival, and research is key. But how do you get research? Well, your sponsor will provide a small amount forever, but to increase it, you have one reliable option at the beginning of the game. You can spend your precious cash outsourcing the science to Earth. In Surviving Mars Relaunched, the outsourcing option is locked behind a couple of laws on your Earth Council. We'll cover politics in the next video, and outsourcing is very expensive, but I do strongly recommend you pursue this option. The faster you can get your technologies online, the faster you can become self-sufficient. Once you have colonists on Mars, you can perform your own research. But where can you spend this research? Well, in the research menu. Here you'll see there are several columns representing different fields of research, from advanced robotics to biotech and more. To start, you'll only see a few options revealed. However, for each technology you research in a column, a new one will become visible in that same column. To start, I'd recommend researching robotics. There's a technology called Explorer AI that will generate passive research for every explorer in your colony, and that helps a lot. Likewise, in the social column, a technology called Earth-Mars Initiative will boost the passive science from your sponsor. Or, if that doesn't show immediately, Mars crowdfunding will give you extra cash that you can spend on an outsource. Outside of that, most of your early science is going to be about laying the groundwork for a functional colony that supports humans. There's several engineering techs that will be useful, including larger rockets, polymer factories, and apartments. Social techs will increase the effectiveness of your colonists once they do arrive, and biotech is absolutely crucial to unlock the farm. Otherwise, food production will be very inefficient. Explore as many of these as you can, but ignore the recon and terraforming columns for now. Those are useful once the colony is already established. So jumping forward a few souls, at this point, you should be stockpiling large amounts of concrete and metal. You've got power generation, you've got fuel, but you're running out of advanced materials. So it's finally time to import those colonists. If you haven't already, go ahead and send your rocket back to Earth. And while you wait, this is the perfect opportunity to build your first residences. Humans obviously can't survive in the Martian atmosphere, so we need to construct large domes to create a hospitable environment. This will cost you a lot of concrete and other materials. If you started as the International Mars mission, you will be given a self-sufficient dome prefab at the beginning of the game, which means you get to place a dome immediately with life support fully online. But that's too easy. Let's assume you're starting from scratch. You'll want to build either a micro or basic dome to start. The basic dome is larger and more cost-effective, but it does cost polymers. If you don't have any left, then the micro dome will be fine. You'll just need more of them. As you place the dome, you'll see that it has a radius to it. This represents the maximum distance your colonists can run to reach jobs outside of the dome, such as working a metal or a rare metal deposit. Try to place your dome to reach as many of these as you can, if you have any. Now, once placed, you should be thinking about life support. You need oxygen, water, and power to sustain life. Now, you already know how to get power and water, so let's add a Moxie to generate oxygen and then get everything hooked up via pipes. This is a great opportunity to build some water and oxygen storage tanks as well, just to provide a small buffer in case of an unlikely emergency. Once you've reached this point, you can finally start filling up the dome. We'll talk about this in more depth in the next video, but for now, just place a couple of residential buildings, or apartments if you have them, and just one farm. And that's it! You've officially finished the early drone-dominated phase of the game and are prepared to support human life. This is a massive milestone for any Martian colony, and you should be proud of your hard work. In the next video, I'll walk you through everything you need to know about the colonial phase of the game. It only gets more exciting and more complicated from here. Thank you all for watching. My name is Provis, and I look forward to seeing you next time.